Song mode, it's the final stage of our production. We are finalizing the look of our music composition, and then we are printing it the way it is. During the previous video, we introduced the concept of the prep work of the song mode. It's a very important stage of the process. We really recommend that you watch that video first, then come back to this. Remember, you are the most important thing in this process. The music, it's a gift. It's an extra, a reward for all your efforts. You are the one who makes difference. You are the one who has a vision. You are. Our previous video, which we recommended just now that you watch, describes the 4 pillars of the preparation. Preparation is the most important aspect of music creation when you basically create a plan. The plan allows you to execute that plan. You follow certain guidance, you don't dwell about anything else, but you want to achieve that specific goal. Today, we are taking it to the next level, and we are finally printing the final result of our work. We created this introduction, a sequence number 1. Under that sequence, we chose our instrumentation. We started with the piano. We've got the bass. We've got the drums. The guitar. Also the strings. Electric piano. Electric piano. I could be muted, hold on. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, and that's it. Our song mode finalizes the look of our music composition, which means we have to have more than one sequence in order to kind of compress the whole thing into one structure. For fun, in the previous video, what we did, we copied sequence 4 times and we put the name into it called intro 2, verse, verse 2, and chorus. If we go to the next song button, they are right here. Intro, we've got intro 2, verse, verse 2, and the chorus. This is what we have so far. Alright, so this is our, we call it an introduction. We can call it also sequence 1. Now, since we expanded our composition into intro 2, verse, verse 2, and chorus, we may expect some kind of essence hidden behind these sequences. Turns out, when we scroll to the beginning, there is nothing. If we go to sequence 2, as you see, there is nothing to the piano, nothing to the bass, drums, guitar, strings, and audio. When we go to verse, the same thing. Verse 2, the same thing. There's absolutely nothing. Ideally, that first section could be slightly different from another section. Another section is going to become another section. So there will be a differentials between these 3 or 4, depending, how long is your music composition. So ideally, we could kind of expand that very first idea of the verse intro. The whole verse sits on top. The whole verse sits on top of the idea of C7. And of course, we go through a different approaches towards that chord, but the most important is that at some point you want to kind of, go somewhere else, like for example, resolve it of F minus 7. So I could use that another intro to a verse to kind of create that kind of contrast. And then when the time comes, you just go back to that C7 chord once again and just groove, right? So you can feel the contrast. So now, in order to delete it, I have to go to Intro 2, hit the pencil, and I say, are you sure you want to clear this sequence? Clear. So once again, look, the sequence number 5, which was Horus in a seconds ago, it doesn't exist anymore. So I scroll the wheel towards verse 2. I hit the pencil. Clear. Are you sure? Clear. Then, when I go to main, this 4 doesn't exist any longer. Clear. And lastly, 2. So we want to make sure that we delete these previous fake sequences where basically there's nothing in. Once we clear the previous sequences, now we can copy the very first one a couple of times. Okay, so now once we have it, we can copy it a bunch of times. Copy sequence. We can do a totally different name, like verse. Let's just pretend that this is the verse. Do it. Number 3, we can call it Horus. Do it. And we can do another one, copy verse 2. Do it. And one more ending. Okay, do it. So now we've got 5 different sequences. They all share the same essence. Now when we go to the next song, we've got them on the left side. Intro, verse, chorus, verse 2, ending. So this will be a foundation of our song. Of course, in a song mode, we are going to organize them the way we want. Right now, there is no difference between them until we start muting some of the tracks. Let's go to the intro. In the intro, we want to go easy, which means maybe we can keep bass, drums, and guitar. Okay. Now, in a verse, we are going to unleash the drum set. So we're going to keep the strings, electric piano, and guitar muted. Okay, so we created the contrast. Now, chorus, we are going to keep piano bass. I want to unleash electric piano, so strings and guitar will be muted. You know what? During the first one, let's just unmute electric and mute the piano. Okay, excellent. So now we unleash with the third one, the piano with the electric. In the chapter 4, or what we call verse 2, we are going to include the guitar, so mute the strings. Okay? And finally, in the ending, we are going to unleash every single instrument. All right, so we've got our representation of the modes, right? Next sequence. So now, every single sequence got 8 bars. They can be different. You can change it. Like, for example, your verse could last 32, and then you roll back to 8 or 4 or 2. Depending, how you prep your work. But the idea looks like this. So we've got 5 different sequences. Each sequence got the same speed they move with and also the length. Okay, so now if I play it, look, that's the first one. We prepared the second one to take place of the previous one. Of course, you can add some shakers, something else. We just witnessed our previous setup. one sequence becomes another one, and I'm listening, and it's like, this is it, this is it. And then all of a sudden, I start having a new ideas. I'm gonna give you a little perspective. Think about going to a sequence 1, and then you mute everything. Sequence 2, you mute everything. Sequence 3, you mute everything. So every single section, it's gonna be, goes down to 0, right? There's no sound whatsoever. When we roll back to intro and play, there is nothing except the click, right? So now, as a composer, I'm gonna listen what I have and start unleashing the channels. Electric piano, piano, bass. Fine by me, scroll by 1. Excellent. So now, second, we already unleashed 3. I'm gonna unleash the drum set. Okay, so I've got the idea what basically builds upon. Now, since we have these 4, I could unleash the guitar pattern or strings. So the strings, in my opinion, is too early. Let's unleash the guitar. Okay, so the rhythm section is gonna be more dynamic, more powerful. Beautiful. Now we go to the verse number 2. Unleash everything before the ending. Excellent. Number 5, it could be interesting because we love this riff by the guitar, but also you don't want to lose the drum set. All right, beautiful. So look what happened. This ending, we could add additional, like instead of ending, we could do some kind of stay. And after the stay, we could copy that sequence called ending. So now I've got the ending, I've got the new sequence. I go to track mute. So this is the ending, this is the stay. So stay, it's gonna have that guitar, drums, and strings. So after this, we've got a new section, new sequence, and we called it ending. During the ending, we are going to unleash all of them. Alright, so we've got our representation, so we can listen it again before we use song mode and just see if what we just created makes sense. This is the intro. I could use some congas. So you see your creative process never ends and you continue involving the music and everything else. we can loop this last section into some kind of fade, slowly down. This is what we have so far. What I love about this pad mute technique, when we mute everything first and then start on muting, because it goes with our mindset. Instead of having all unmuted and start muting it, you see, it's a different approach. Like, what can I mute? But I'm hearing everything. So you see what I mean? But if I have muted everything, I mute the bass and just listen. It's like bass could go well with this one. Oh, no, maybe this one. No, oh, this is perfect. So you start kind of working towards your music composition that way. And all of a sudden, you've got a bunch of great sequences put together. All right, when we go to main, now I'm going to hit menu button and go to the song mode. We can achieve going to that subpage in a different way. You can go shift and then hit song button right here. So you achieve the same result, just in a different way. In that subpage, we've got intro on the bottom, then verse, chorus, verse 2, stay, sequence, and of course, ending. Now, intro, and look what I'm gonna hit the insert button, boom, and it manifests in my song setup. So this subpage, let's just clear it again. This subpage allows us to drop sequences in any order we wish. Okay? Let's just start from the ending. Insert, stay, insert, verse. So everything is backwards, right? And now, in the first sequence, you've got the name of the sequence. How many loops? Just one. How many bars? Okay? Which means you can always change the number of the repetition. And change the name of the sequence. Look, I use the wheel to scroll through sequences. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we just substituted the number 5 sequence with the first one. We're going to do the same thing instead of ending sequence number 2, which is verse. Number 3. Okay, so you can always do it that way. Chorus and the ending stays untouched. Now, we also recognize that we want to fade the music, but not after not after 8 bars, but maybe 16 or 32. So look what happened. If I change that loop to 2, which means 2, it's gonna run 2 circles around that sequence. 3 circles. So I could extend that ending, right, just a little bit longer before I start fading it. Even 4. But 4 times 8 gives us 1632. So let's just stick to 2. We could also repeat the intro and repeat the verse the same way, like you could do twice or once. For fun, let's just do twice, okay? And now we are going to listen the whole thing. So now from this point, I don't have to touch anything. What we set up here, it's gonna spill. So just remember, the second sequence is gonna manifest twice. And it's gonna switch by itself. So this thing is gonna repeat again because of the 2. See, the same thing. It's about 4 bars. We are going to switch to another sequence called chorus. Here we go. 5, 6, 7, you've got the idea, right? So because we changed that number, we basically achieve different result. Of course, we can influence the amount of bars we use in our sequence and just organize them that way. The difference between pad mute and a song mode is this. In a pad mute, I deal with sequences like I don't organize them in a way what song mode does, but what I do, I can influence what's inside of each sequence. So expose some tracks, mute some tracks, right? The song mode allows me to take these sequences and organize them in a different way. So now I listen to the entire song and I'm thinking, would it be nice to move this sequence ahead of this sequence? And then I listen, and then I flip. So I flip sections. Now each section got its own inside. That's pad mute. You see? So if something doesn't work, I have to go to pad mute to fix the essence of that section. Now I'm bringing it back to song mode, and then I fool around with it as a song, as a final kind of vibe and look. If for some reason I decide to add additional instruments, like our verse was lacking during the second 4 bars, some kind of percussion instrument, I could definitely go to the intro and 5, 6, piano, electric, and on the 7, I could generate basically some kind of percussion instrument. Okay, and take it basically from there. Once we like what we have, now we can print it. We can convert our sequences into a song by clicking Convert Sequence. Our new sequence, it's going to manifest in a song mode right here. So look, we can play it. This new sequence, it's going to include all the sequences. So we could call it a song, a version number 1. Now we can basically look how many available channels we have to create additional songs. So it's ridiculous, right? That's a plenty to create a bunch of versions of your song and then take it for a ride, which means you can drive your car and just listen the version number 1, number 2, and basically, just live with it for a while. Then you decide, the version of the song which I printed, the version number 3, it's the best. That's it. Now, when you hit export button, you go to the subpage, what basically allows you to export your music into your computer, into the zip drive, into the hardware of the MPCXSE. And of course, you deal with different parameters, what you want to control. For now, I would leave it the way it is and just hit export. And you're going to have a music printed in a waveform. If you decide for some reason to change it, you've got the different varieties of, your MP3, beautiful. Sample rate, you can change that. It's very straightforward. If you decide for some reason separate these programs, you're going to, of course, print every single track on its own. And that's it. You just hit export button, and you're all set. In the end of the day, this process is more important than music itself. In our opinion, the process shapes us in a way that we become. So when we spend time, we come to certain conclusions. When you come to certain conclusions, you have new, fresh ideas and perspective. on what next, what's the next project, how can we treat this project, and so on. So basically, it shapes us in a way that we become more aware of so many different aspects of life, our relationships, and the music itself.